So what if I told you that you don't actually see the world around you?
I mean, it sounds crazy right out of the gate, but it's true.
Right, because when you open your eyes, you don't just see trees or cars or, other people in this pure objective state.
No, we really don't.
We just walk through our entire day operating under this massive, totally unexamined assumption that we are essentially walking camera luxes.
Exactly. Like light just comes in
Yeah.
and we just passively record this high-definition static world exactly as it is.
But the reality of how we perceive our environment is, well, it's far more constructed. It's completely goal-oriented and honestly, a little unsettling.
Oh, for sure. It's a completely different paradigm.
So today, welcome to the deep dive. We are going to decode the hidden mechanics of purposeful human navigation. And to be clear to you listening, we aren't talking about, like, how you drive to the grocery store.
Right. No, we're going much deeper than that.
We're diving into the underlying machinery of how you actually perceive reality, how you set an aim, and how you move through your entire life.
Okay, let's unpack this because the core premise here is wild.
It really is. It fundamentally changes how you understand your own behavior when you realize human beings are, at their core, navigating creatures.
Navigating creatures.
Yeah, you literally cannot separate action from perception. They are just locked together.
I mean, we tend to view reality as a stage, right? And we're just the audience sitting in the theater watching the play unfold.
Right, but if you look at existential philosophy, perceptual psychology, brain anatomy, and even the most archaic mythological narratives, that passive camera lens analogy completely shatters.
It totally falls apart because the idea is that our eyes and our brains literally do not work by just taking in what is quote-unquote there. We only see what we aim at.
Exactly. And to understand the mechanics of this, we really have to look at the concept of the cybernetic frame.
Cybernetic frame. Okay. Yeah. This originates with a mathematician named Norbert Wiener back in the 1940s. He was a pioneer in computation, specifically working on anti-missile control systems during World War II.
So he was figuring out the mathematics of shooting down a moving target.
Right. And to intercept a missile, the system needs three specific things. First, it needs a starting place. Second, it needs a predicted trajectory for the target.
Okay.
And third, it needs a mechanism to constantly organize its own machinery to, decrease the gap between where it is and where it wants to be.
So it's constantly correcting itself.
Yes, and human perception operates on this exact same cybernetic model. You always have a point A, which we can call the unbearable present.
Wait, unbearable? Why unbearable?
Well, it has to be somewhat unbearable, or at least insufficient. Because think about it. If the present were absolutely perfect, you wouldn't move an inch.
Oh, I see. You just sit there in bliss until you starved.
Exactly. So you have point A, the unbearable present, and then you have point B, which is your desired future.
Oh.
And your brain literally, physically organizes your entire visual and perceptual field around closing the gap between A and B.
And this isn't just like a philosophical metaphor about having goals. This actually shows up in the biological reality of human eyesight.
It does. It's incredibly literal.
Specifically, something called foveal vision.
Right. So the fovea is the very center point of your retina, and it is the only part of your vision that is actually high resolution.
Wow.
Yeah. When you look directly at a word on a page, that word is hitting the fovea. But processing that tiny circle of high-resolution data requires a massive amount of neurological resources.
So it's heavily taxing on the brain.
Huge. If your entire retina were foveal, if you saw the whole room in that same crisp detail all at once, your visual cortex would have to be astronomically larger just to process the input.
Our skulls physically couldn't accommodate a brain that big.
No, not even close.
So how does the brain cheat the system to fit inside our heads?
It makes a really ruthless biological calculation.
Right.
It pinpoints the fovea on the exact specific detail relevant to your current goal.
Only the relevant stuff.
Right. And as you move out from that center point to the periphery of your vision, the resolution just drops precipitously, goes blurry, it fades into black and white, and eventually there's just nothingness.
It just disappears.
Yeah, you don't even experience the sensation of absence behind your head. It is just a void. Your brain intentionally blinds you to everything that doesn't serve your immediate aim to conserve computing power.
It's like playing a video game where only the items you need for your current quest glow and everything else is just like muddy background texture that you don't even really register.
That is a perfect analogy. Reality isn't made of objective matter to us. It's made of tools that help us move forward and obstacles that get in our way.
Well, okay, let me push back on this a little because it sounds a little too cold.
Sure.
If my immediate goal is rushing to work because I'm late and stressed, and an old lady with a walker is slowly crossing the street in front of my car, is my brain literally perceiving another human being as just an obstacle?
Biologically speaking, it actually is.
That is horrifying.
If you are entirely possessed by a narrow, immediate aim, like just getting to work fast, your perceptual frame strips the world of its broader meaning.
Wow.
The elderly woman ceases to be a complex human being with inherent value.
Mm.
To your visual cortex in that split second, she is merely an impediment producing negative emotion. She is a roadblock.
But I don't run her over. I mean, most people don't run her over.
Right, and that is where higher order moral aims come in. If your only aim was the pure cybernetic drive to get to work, you might just run her over.
Yikes.
But we nest our short-term goals inside larger, more sophisticated, overarching stories. You have a higher aim to, be a good citizen or treat others as you'd want to be treated.
So the higher aim overrides the primal impulse.
Exactly. It forces your perceptual frame to recognize her humanity rather than just her status as an obstacle.
Okay, that makes sense. But if our perception is constantly building this map and highlighting tools and obstacles based on whatever we are aiming at, how do we know if we are on the right path?
That's the big question.
Right, because an anti-missile system has a computer telling it if it's drifting off course. What is our internal dashboard?
We use emotion.
Emotion.
Yet what's fascinating here is we tend to think of emotions as these nebulous, irrational weather patterns that just, wash over us for no reason.
Right, like I'm just having a bad day.
Exactly. But neuropsychologically, emotion is a highly precise trajectory adjustment system. It is the biological GPS that tells you if your cybernetic frame is functioning.
Okay, wait.
Positive emotion doesn't actually come from getting what you want. It comes from observing forward movement toward a highly valued goal.
That feels counterintuitive. I mean, we spend our whole lives thinking we will finally be happy when we get the promotion or buy the house or graduate.
Think about the day you graduate from high school or college. Receiving that diploma feels incredible. You are at the absolute peak of that specific hierarchy.
Sure, it's a great day.
But what happens the very next morning?
You wake up and you feel kind of empty.
Right.
You're suddenly just like an entry-level clerk somewhere or a bewildered freshman at the bottom of a brand new ladder.
Because the goal is gone. The peak of the positive emotion was the progress toward the diploma, not the static possession of a piece of paper.
Ah, the progress is the point.
Yes, your brain rewards you for closing the gap between point A and point B. Once you hit point B, the dopamine shuts off until you pick a new target.
So what about negative emotion?
Negative emotion is just the GPS recalculating. It signals a deviation from the path. An obstacle appears, your plan fails, and you feel anxiety or frustration. That is literally your brain saying you are no longer moving toward the target.
Let's dig into the biology of that dopamine system. Why are we wired to only feel good when we are chasing something?
Well, look at the structure of the brain. Our most ancient primitive drives hunger, thirst, temperature regulation, defensive rage. Those are mediated by the hypothalamus,
Right.
which sits right down in the basement of the brain on top of the spinal cord. That system just wants to keep you from dying.
Just baseline survival.
Exactly. But there is another system layered on top of that, the exploratory system, which is tied directly to dopamine.
The reward center.
But it specifically rewards exploration. It rewards the act of aiming at something unknown and figuring it out. To feel that deep, sustaining, positive emotion, real enthusiasm, you literally must have an aim.
So without an aim,
Biologically, if you have no goal, the dopamine system has no reason to fire. It has nothing to reward.
so what does this all mean for our daily motivation? I mean, if you are wandering aimlessly, you aren't just bored. You are biologically incapable of feeling profound positive emotion.
That's exactly it.
It's crazy when you apply it to the listener's own life. Anxiety is, technically speaking, the feeling of not being aimed in a single direction. You are dropped into a landscape with no point B, so your brain doesn't know what to highlight as a tool and what to highlight as an obstacle.
Right, so everything becomes a potential threat.
Everything. So if we require a target just to function neurologically and avoid drowning in anxiety, it raises a terrifying question about society. What happens when an entire culture's overarching map collapses?
It's catastrophic.
Has that actually happened?
Oh, absolutely. Look at the mid-1800s, right at the explosive height of the Industrial Revolution. People were pouring into cities, ancient community structures were fracturing, and the scientific revolution was, explaining away the mysteries of the universe.
Right, the world was changing fast.
This is where Friedrich Nietzsche enters the picture. He was a thinker who philosophized with a hammer.
Philosophizing with a hammer. That sounds like he was just trying to destroy things for the sake of being edgy.
A lot of people think that, but it wasn't about destruction for fun. He went deep down into the foundational axioms of Western thought and started tapping on the structural pillars to see what sounded hollow.
And he found a hollow one.
He realized that the deepest pillar had cracked. Nietzsche famously pronounced the death of God. But he wasn't throwing an atheistic celebration.
He wasn't.
No, he was a terrified doctor diagnosing a cultural disease. He recognized that the overarching Judeo-Christian value system, which had provided the navigational map for Western civilization for thousands of years, was collapsing under the weight of modern rationalism.
It sounds like society's ultimate GPS satellite went offline, and suddenly millions of personal navigation systems just went blank. What happens to a population when they lose that overarching point B?
Nietzsche prophesied two devastating consequences. First, a dawn of universal nihilism,
Just pervasive hopelessness.
a demoralizing hopelessness where nothing matters because there is no ultimate aim. And second, he predicted that people desperately craving a new map would be seduced by totalitarian ideologies.
Wow.
Yeah, when you are drowning in the anxiety of aimlessness, you will grab onto any life raft, even if it's a tyrant promising to build a utopia.
This perfectly maps onto the 20th century. People ran into the arms of radical nationalism and utopian communism.
Exactly. Analysts of those movements, like Alexander Solzhenitsyn, argued that the utopian communist regimes of the 20th century were driven heavily by an unacknowledged, murderous resentment.
Resentment.
It was an attempt to forcefully impose a rigid, hyper-rationalist map on a population that had lost its spiritual center, and it led to the deaths of tens of millions of people, because you cannot force human beings into a mechanical utopia without crushing them.
But wait, if the old societal maps broke down under the weight of science, why can't we just invent our own values? I mean, why can't I sit down with a journal and rationally decide what my personal point B is entirely from scratch?
Well, Nietzsche actually hoped we could do exactly that. He envisioned a new kind of person who could create their own values out of sheer will.
The Uberman.
Right. But the psychoanalysts who came after him, specifically Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, looked at human psychology and realized that inventing your own values is a dangerous illusion.
How so? If I decide my highest value is, like, becoming a great artist, isn't that me rationally setting my aim?
Freud demonstrated that we are not the masters of our own house.
No.
We are a collection of incredibly powerful, ancient biological drives, what he called the id.
Right. Lust, aggression.
The drive for status, self-preservation. When you think you are sitting down and rationally creating your own noble values, you are highly likely just rationalizing the demands of your underlying biology.
Oh, I see.
You might think you want to be a great artist for the sake of beauty, but your deeper biology might just be driving you to acquire status so you can find a better mate. You are a plaything of these drives, masquerading as a rational mapmaker.
It sounds like Nietzsche took a hammer to the ultimate GPS satellite and everyone's personal navigation systems went blank. But the idea that we can just invent a new map from scratch is a trap because we aren't fully the masters of our own house.
Yeah.
And Carl Jung took issue with this too, right? What was his warning about everyone making their own personal maps?
Jung looked at it from a social perspective. If there are 8 billion people on Earth, and everyone invents their own purely subjective values, what happens when my map intersects with your map?
They crash.
If there is no unifying, overarching structure that we both agree on, we inevitably clash. My point B requires your resources. We devolve into constant, brutal conflict. It becomes a ruthless survival of the fittest free-for-all.
So we're caught in this massive paradox. We biologically require an aim to perceive the world and to feel any positive emotion.
Right.
But if we try to invent that aim purely out of our own heads, we either fall prey to our hidden biological urges or we end up in endless conflict with everyone else's custom map.
It's a real bind.
So how do we find a map that actually works?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the absolute oldest human narratives we possess. Before philosophy, before science, ancient humans encoded the mechanics of navigation into stories of sacrifice.
Sacrifice feels like such an antiquated religious word.
It does, but take it out of the religious context for a second and look at it psychologically. The story of Adam and Eve dramatizes the dawn of human self-consciousness.
Okay.
When human beings became self-conscious, what really happened was they became aware of time. A dog doesn't save bones for retirement,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right.
A zebra grazing in the field doesn't worry about the lion if the lion is sleeping. But human beings realized the lion will wake up tomorrow. We became uniquely aware of our vulnerability in the future.
Because we are aware of the future, we discovered something unprecedented in the animal kingdom work.
Exactly. Work is simply sacrificing the present for the future. It is delayed gratification. If you want a better tomorrow, you cannot consume everything you have today. You have to bargain with the fabric of reality.
Let's bring in the story of Cain and Abel. Two brothers, two different modes of navigating the world. They both put in work, meaning they both make sacrifices, attempting to bargain for a better future.
But the quality of their aim is entirely different. Abel sets his aim properly. The ancient text says he offers the firstlings of his flock and the fat.
The first.
Psychologically, the firstlings represent setting your priorities perfectly right from the beginning. First things first. The fat represents the absolute highest quality.
So he gives his best.
Abel doesn't hold anything back. He gives his total best to the highest possible ideal.
And because he offers his best, reality accepts the bargain. The world lays itself out properly for him. But Cain, he cuts corners.
Right. He offers a second-rate sacrifice. He holds something back, thinking he can fool the structure of the universe.
And reality doesn't buy it. His sacrifice is rejected. His fields don't yield. And what is his reaction? The text says his countenance falls.
He becomes profoundly depressed, bitter, and angry. He feels that the world is inherently unjust because he put in some effort and got nothing back.
We all know it can't. I mean, we've all worked with someone who does the bare minimum, expects the massive promotion, gets passed over for the person who actually works hard, and then becomes totally toxic and resentful.
Resentment is the pivotal emotion here. God essentially warns Cain, if you do well, won't you be accepted? But if you don't, sin lies at your door like a predatory animal waiting for you to invite it in.
Wow.
What do you do when your map fails? Do you adjust your aim or do you blame reality?
Cain blames reality. He invites the resentment in. He decides that if his second-rate sacrifices aren't rewarded, then the whole system is rigged. And he doesn't just get mad, he murders his brother.
Right.
But why Abel? Why not just walk away?
Because Abel is the ideal. Abel is walking proof that the system actually works if you do it right. Cain's ultimate sin isn't just murder, it's destroying the ideal out of pure nihilistic resentment. It is the desire to burn down the entire system, just to prove a point about your own misery. This spirit of Cain is the root of societal collapse and totalitarian hell. When people stop aiming up, they start aiming at destruction.
Here is where it gets really interesting because this stops being an ancient story and becomes a brutally practical navigational strategy for your day-to-day life. Treating people well, acting with radical hospitality, aiming up, these aren't just polite social conventions.
No, they're not.
It's the ultimate survival tactic. If you genuinely try to help others move forward, if you are productive and generous to a fault, you are building a vast network of goodwill.
You are creating an environment where hundreds of people might be positively disposed toward you.
Right.
When the inevitable obstacles arise on your path because your map will encounter chaos eventually, that network is what ensures your path forward is supported by others.
It's like an insurance policy.
It is the highest form of navigating because it synchronizes your personal point B with the well-being of the broader community. You aren't crashing your map into theirs, you are merging them.
So let's pull all of this together for the listener. Your brain is a cybernetic seeking missile. You literally cannot see the world outside of the goals you set. Your emotions aren't random weather patterns. They are your biological GPS telling you if you are moving forward or drifting off course.
Exactly.
And because we are uniquely aware of the future, we have to make genuine, high-quality sacrifices to move from point A to point B. If the world keeps kicking you in the face, if you feel bitter and resentful like Cain, it might not be that the universe is rigged against you.
Probably isn't.
It might be that your navigational aim is misaligned. You might be holding back your best or aiming at something so trivial that it doesn't justify the inherent suffering of life.
That's the hard truth.
But as we wrap up, I want to toss it over to you for one final puzzle to chew on.
Sure.
We've spent this entire deep dive talking about navigating known pathways, setting an aim, and making sacrifices to secure a better future on a map that we understand. But what about the blank spaces?
Right, because if you rely entirely on a secure, perfectly familiar map, you are incredibly vulnerable when the unexpected inevitably happens. because chaos always breaches the walls eventually.
Always does.
So what if the ultimate navigational strategy isn't avoiding the unknown at all? What if the most crucial step you can take isn't just following the map, but voluntarily stepping right off the edge of it into the dark? Because encountering what you don't know is the only possible way to upgrade your map.